Hey, what's going on everyone? So I got an exciting video for you today, a super fun one for me to do. We're going to be showing you the difference between heating a canvas bell tent with a diesel heater versus a wood stove, and a few of the differences. That way, if you were thinking about hot tent camping and didn't know which one to get or which one's right for you, maybe this video will help you out. And if you're interested in learning a little bit more also about the Vevor 4-meter bell tent, that's the tent we're using today, so this might help you understand a few things about that as far as the size. I have a queen bed set up. We're actually going to be spending the night in this tent tonight. It's supposed to get down to 19 degrees tonight. Right now it is around 30 degrees. I have some thermometers here. I have one indoor and one outdoor. Right now this one says it's 33 degrees outside and 42 inside. The Weather Channel says it's around 30 degrees here, so we're going to fire up this diesel heater first, heat this tent, and show you some of the benefits of that. And then later on, we're going to fire up this wood stove, use that, and show you some benefits of that. We're going to see how hot we can get it in here. Probably going to be stripping off some of these layers. But let's get into it, guys. Now, I do want to mention that Vevor did send me this gear to do the testing and make this video. But it's one that I've been wanting to do for a long time because I've always wanted a hot tent, always wanted a wood stove. And I thought a diesel heater would be a good addition to that as well. So let's get into it. So the first thing to know about a diesel heater is that you need an electricity source to run the unit. Now, typically these run on 12-volt batteries, and they do pull, this one specifically, right around 12 amps. So usually you can't run it off the DC port on a solar generator like this one. However, this diesel heater comes with this adapter. It's an AC to DC adapter that outputs 12 amps, so that you can run this diesel heater off of any power station that has AC outlets on it. Now, that's going to be a little bit less efficient because you have to run the inverter than running it directly from the DC port. Now, I do have a few that will run that heater, like my EcoFlow Delta Pro Max, my Anker Solix F3800 Plus ran it, and also the Bluetti AC240 because it has a higher output limit on the DC output. So keep that in mind. If you're getting a diesel heater, you're going to want to make sure you have something that's going to run the unit, or you're going to want to get one that has this AC adapter. Right now, it's saying 43 degrees inside and 33 degrees outside. And I can tell you guys that I was very impressed. This is the first time that I set this canvas bell tent up, and I'm very impressed with it actually being about 10 degrees warmer in here than outside, even without any heat on. And that really surprised me. It cuts down all the wind, and the sun is actually heating it up pretty well inside here. And it's actually not too bad, pretty comfortable. Oh yeah, and if you guys are interested, I'll put affiliate links down below to all this stuff that I talk about, the tent, the wood stove, the Vevor diesel heater. And I do want to mention that if you register on the Vevor website, you got to give them your email, and I think they might give you a coupon or something, but I'll put the link down below. Whenever you register, all this stuff is a lot cheaper on their website directly. For example, I think this was just over $100 if you register, and then this diesel heater, I believe, is about $125 if you register, and if you're not registered, I think it's like $180. The canvas bell tent is, I think, right around $325 if you're registered, maybe around $400 if you're not. So huge savings when you register. So if you are considering purchasing these, I highly recommend that. And if you do use my link when you register and order, it will help support the channel. And I want to thank you guys in advance for that, because that's what helps me creating these videos. All right, so the first nice thing about this diesel heater, super portable and compact here, very small. Now, ideally, you really would want to have this heater inside your tent, and then you're going to want your intake for your burners and your exhaust to exit the tent. That way it's recirculating the air inside the tent, pulling the air through the back of here and pushing it out here. That's ideally what you want. However, most people, and including me, if I use this, I'll probably just put it outside and then just put the exhaust from the heat into the tent, and then it will be sucking air from the outside, pushing it into the tent. On this particular heater, the inlet for the burners is actually inside the unit here, so you can't actually vent that out unless you drilled a hole and extended that pipe. A lot of times you'll see on these heaters, they have two outlets on the bottom, one for the exhaust and one for the intake. And like I said, that intake on this one is inside behind this cover, so something to keep in mind. If I find a way to exhaust this exhaust out of this tent later on in the future, maybe I'll let you guys know down below in the comments. I do have a longer exhaust coming, maybe I can vent it out the stove jack if I wasn't using the wood stove, and then I wouldn't have to worry about rain or snow or anything like that if the weather was bad and this was sitting outside. But I can always maybe put a cover or something over. You just want to stay away from that exhaust because it gets really hot. So this tent specifically has a little zipper flap here. I can go ahead and put this pipe right through there. It fits really nice. It's about a 3-inch pipe. Stick that in there. Let's get this a little closer here. Keep that exhaust over there, away from the string so it doesn't melt it. One thing I don't like about this adapter here is the extension on this plug is not very long, and you have to leave this outside. Would have been nice if this part was longer. That way you could put this inside and you wouldn't have to worry about this getting wet if it rained. And another thing nice about this heater here is that it does have an app that you can use to control the heater, and also has a remote that you can use to control it, to turn it on and off. And one thing to know is if you're using the thermostat to set a temperature in your tent, it's not going to work if your heater's outside, because it's going to be pulling the air from the outside, metering that air. So it's not going to cycle on and off unless you had this thing inside. And like I said, that's ideally how you would want it, and just exhaust the fumes outside. So let's get this thing fired up and see how hot we can get it. Okay, so the diesel heater is just starting to come on. If you listen, you can hear the fuel pump tapping on it. And you really notice that when you initially start it up. And I noticed when it's on high, you don't hear it as much, but that's one negative to using a diesel heater, is you will hear that tapping noise unless you get a more isolated pump. I believe they have upgrades that you could put a different pump in, but I just heard it kick on, and we're gonna see how warm we can get it in here. Once it gets hot enough, I think that tapping slows down a little bit, but that is the fuel pump making that noise. Let's see if you can hear it. That's the tapping noise it makes. And one other thing to know about this diesel heater is that whenever you're using it, the exhaust fumes can blow around here and come through this, get sucked in, and then get blown into your tent, depending on which way the wind's blowing. If the wind's blowing this way, you're not gonna have a problem, but if the wind's blowing this way, it could blow some of that exhaust back through, get pulled in and sucked in through to your tent. So keep that in mind. If you smell a little bit of a diesel smell inside, that's probably what's happening. Now I have an extension coming, it's a 4-foot exhaust, which should help with this. But overall, usually when this thing's running, you can barely even smell it. All right, so I got the diesel heater running, and it's already 58 degrees in here, and it's been about 20 minutes. 10 minutes ago, it was already like 10, 15 degrees warmer. So very easy to heat a tent up, very like super easy. You don't have to worry about starting a fire. You don't have to worry about gathering firewood. The only thing you do have to worry about is running out of diesel and electricity when you're running that diesel heater. Now, when the diesel heater starts, it uses quite a bit of energy, about 150 watts. But once that glow plug shuts off and it's just running, as long as it's not starting up and shutting down, it only uses somewhere around 30 watts, sometimes less than that. So it's very efficient on electricity. Very, very efficient on diesel. I ran this thing for 4 or 5 hours on not even a half a gallon of diesel the other day when I was testing it. So very efficient on diesel. I think on one tank it'll last the whole night, but we're gonna go ahead, get some firewood now, get ready to light the wood stove here once it gets cold. But so far it's 59 degrees in here currently and 33 degrees outside. So really, really keeping it nice and warm. It's actually warming the floor up because I got that angled down a little bit, so it's blowing the heat down here on the floor, keeping the floor warm. And let's see how much power it's using real quick. Currently using 30 to 50 watts. It's fluctuating up and down a little bit. So if you turn that diesel heater down to 1, right now it's on the max. If you turn it down to 1, it would use a lot less energy than that. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes you will hear that ticking noise. Right now, no, I don't hear it at all. I don't hear the ticking noise at all, but it does sound a little bit like a jet engine from the fan blowing in here because it is on high. Whenever you turn it down to 1, here, actually, I'll simulate that for you. I do have the app that I can use, but this heater also comes with a remote. Go ahead, turn it down. And that's the only thing, when the heater's outside, you don't know really what setting it's on because the remote doesn't tell you. Let me open up the app here and see if it's actually on 1 now. I can hear it ramping down there. All right, I got the app opened up. I'm on 1. It says the ambient temperature is 42 degrees because it's actually pulling the temperature from outside, but that's not accurate because it's really like 30 degrees out. The other thermometer says it's 33 degrees out there. I have it set outside, so that's a little bit off. now that it's down on 1, it's still going to keep this tent nice and warm, but now you can start to hear that ticking noise from that pump. Yeah, a little bit of ticking noise. You can't hear the blower as much now. You can't hear that turbo noise, that noise, but you can hear that tick, 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 tick of that fuel pump. So if you're a light sleeper, diesel heater might not be for you if that ticking noise annoys you. Personally, I like the sound of a wood fire. However, it is a little bit more work to keep it running at night, having to stock it with wood. All right, so benefit of the wood stove is if you're in an area that's wooded, you have an unlimited supply of fuel. And I love these little wood carriers here, but we're gathering up some wood here now. Gonna get that wood stove lit and see what kind of temperature we can maintain with that wood stove. And I made a quick YouTube short. I bought a bunch of little saws off of Temu, and I cut these logs up with those to see which saw was the best. That was pretty cool. I actually ended up liking the one that had the curved blade on it because it was a lot easier to cut with that curved blade. So if you're looking for a little hand saw, I'd recommend the one with the curved blade. It works a lot better than the straight bladed saws. Let's load it up. All right, got it all split up. That's 2 things so far. I may get 1 or 2 more and see how long that lasts. So a little bit more work involved with a wood stove. Loaded up, ready to light. Now, one thing about the wood stove is it's a little bit messier, actually a lot messier with all the wood in here. Part of that is because I have the diesel heater blowing and it blew a bunch of the sawdust and particles all over the place from that heater. The floor is actually really warm right here from that diesel heater blowing in here, but just a little bit dirtier, and you will get a little bit more of a smoke smell inside with this occasionally. All right, everyone, so I've had the diesel heater going for almost 2.5 hours now, and really good temperature in here. It's still a little bit chilly, but I feel like it would heat up a lot more if I closed those vents in up top, because I could really feel a draft coming through because it's a really windy day. So if I close those, it would maintain a little bit warmer temperature in here. But as you can see now, it's dark out and the temperature dropped outside. It's now 25 degrees outside, 54 degrees in here. And I've also been coming in and out of that door, getting firewood, getting ready to cook dinner on the wood stove, getting ready to light that. So that had a part to play in a couple degrees, I'm sure, but still feels pretty comfortable in here for it only being 24 to 25 degrees outside currently. And in those 2.5 hours, I only used just over 1 liter of fuel. So very efficient on the heater. It's been running on high the whole entire time. So no doubt that thing could probably last all night if I filled that tank up. And the tank's not very big. It's only like 1 gallon tank, I believe. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this wood stove lit and cook some dinner, see how hot we can get it in here, see if we can get it up past 54 degrees. And again, it's supposed to drop to 19 tonight, so we'll see how long this wood lasts. I brought in 3 of these things of wood here. We got 2 there, 1 over here, and I got the stove loaded up, ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut that off. We're gonna leave it out there all night in case I have to turn it on tonight, but we'll see how long this wood lasts. I'll go ahead and reset my timer, but we've been running, like I said, 2.5 hours on the diesel heater. But almost a 30-degree difference between outside versus inside. And that's the temperature down here on this table. Probably be hotter up there if I close those vents off. Actually, I do have a thermometer up here, and it looks like it's about right around the same up there, 54, 55 degrees. So same up top as it is down below here, but I feel like if I block those vents off up there, it would definitely get a lot warmer in here. And that's why the app's better, because you can't tell when you hit the buttons on the remote what the heater's doing. And right now it's set for heating on level 5, 36 degree ambient temperature, so I know that's wrong because it's only about 24 outside. So let's try to shut it off. All right, I just shut the diesel heater off, and one thing I just noticed is I only had it on level 5. There's 6 levels. I thought it was on the max mode, so it was maintaining 30-degree difference in temperature from outside versus inside, set at 5. If I set it to 6, it probably would be a little bit warmer in here. Earlier when I was running it on 6, it was maintaining about 57 degrees in here, so I might have lost about 3 degrees from bumping it down from 6 to 5. But overall, very easy to maintain 57 degrees in here, even when it's right around 25 to 30 degrees outside. So in my opinion, this is pretty comfortable. I've camped out in 30-some degree weather with no heater with my son when he was really little, and it was definitely a lot colder in the tent than it's in here right now. So Really happy with the diesel heater so far. Definitely would keep it nice and comfortable throughout the night. Make sure the damper's open. Now this is another nice feature of a wood stove in a hot tent, is that you can cook on here. If it's raining outside, snowing outside, super cold, you can cook your food on here, heat up some water for hot coffee or hot cocoa. You can hear that sizzle. And you can't do that with a diesel heater. Now keep in mind, you may get some smells, like right now, there are some onions and stuff in here. So it does smell a little bit like onions in the tent, not too bad, but you can always open those 4 windows up on the bottom of this tent, put the screen in the front. It will get cooler in here when you're doing that, but at least it'll vent the smells out, and then you can close everything back up and let it heat up. Currently it's 24 degrees outside and 51 degrees in here. And the wood stove's been going for about 33 minutes. And we're cooking pesto zucchini risotto. The next nice thing about the wood stove is that it gives a little bit of ambient light versus no light from the diesel heater. So pretty nice at night here. As long as the fire is going, you have a little tiny bit of light coming out, and it's really awesome because I love sitting in front of a hot wood stove. So it's got a little bit colder out, and this wood stove has been going for 3.5 hours now. And you can see I still got all this wood left here, all these, and still some over there. But all the big stuff that I brought in, I still have. Should have enough wood to get me through tonight. However, you would have to get up about every hour, hour and a half or so and throw some logs on there if you want to keep this thing going. That's the only negative to this versus the diesel heater. The diesel heater, you just turn it on, set it, and forget it until you run out of diesel fuel, but it should last all night with 1 tank of fuel. However, like I said before, it's going to be noisier. You get a little bit of cracking, a little bit of popping from the metal on this wood stove, and it's really nice to listen to at night when you're laying down. And it got colder out. It's 19 degrees outside right now and 60 degrees in here. I did have it up to 65 degrees, but we were just coming in and out of the door a little bit, bringing some more pillows and stuff in. So the wood stove is keeping it nice and warm in here. And this has been sitting on that table, so that's where it's been about 60 to 65 degrees with the wood stove. I got this little fan on here too. Right now I have it blowing that way, but pretty neat. No batteries, just sits on there. When it gets hot, it starts spinning. Whew. 19 degrees outside, 60 degrees inside. Nice. What do you think, bud?
It's warm. I love it.
He loves it. Game changer for father-son camp, huh?
Yep, totally.
All right, now we got the wood stove and the Vevor diesel heater going at the same time. 19 degrees outside, and we got it to 73. Actually, it was just up to 74 degrees. It must have just went back down. 73 degrees inside with both of those running. Now I have that coming through the wall, and what's nice is I'm able to blow the air from that right past the side of the stove here. I'm getting a really nice heat coming onto this bed here, and it's helping push some of that heat from that stove over this way as well. So it's actually pretty cool to run both of these at the same time, and really, really warm in here. 10 degrees warmer than I even keep my house. So that's pretty sweet. But it's almost 11:30 here at night, so I'm gonna probably load this fire up, turn that diesel heater off, or turn it down to 1. Not quite sure yet, but I'll see you guys in the morning. Good night. Good morning, everyone. So it is almost 7 a.m. It's been about 12 hours since I started using the wood stove in here. And man, I gotta tell you guys, I woke up a couple times last night and the fire was almost out. One time I actually had to relight it. My son was out here with me last night, but he gave up. Got too cold for him. About 4 o'clock in the morning, he gave up and went to go get some heat because he was cold. But I'll show you guys here how much wood I have left. I had the diesel heater running all night from about midnight, I filled it up with diesel fuel right around, I think it was right around midnight, and we're gonna go out and see how much fuel's left in there. Most of the night I had it on the low setting for almost all night, but the few times that I did wake up because it was so cold, it was around 40 degrees when I woke up and the fire was almost out. I cranked that diesel heater up to high, and it was really nice to have that because it was pretty much instantaneous heat. Cranked it up to 6 and was able to sit there and get warm while the wood stove reignited and got warm again. So in my opinion, it's really nice to have both, especially on a cold night like last night. Currently, it's 14 degrees here. Here, I'll show you. Let me get up. So currently, it's 14 degrees outside and 65 degrees inside here. Now, when I was running the wood stove and the diesel heater last night, when I got everything warm and cranked up, it was like 77 degrees in here. And you can see how much wood I have left. When I first started, I had 3 of those carriers full. There's probably about a half a carrier full there, and just a little bit of this smaller stuff here. But I went through almost all that wood. If I would have stayed up and fed the fire and kept it warm in here all night, guaranteed all this wood probably would have been gone. If not, really, really close to being gone. But still have the fire going in here, still getting some pretty good heat off of there. Oh, and the power station that I had running the diesel heater is down to 6%. So that's actually why I just shut the diesel heater off. But I didn't start at 100% with that little EcoFlow there. When I started yesterday airing up the air mattress, it was only at about 75%, and then I ran it all those times, charged phones with it. My son plugged his flashlight into it last night, and it's down to 6%. So ideally, if I was out in the middle of nowhere, I'd stretch out a solar panel and charge that unit back up. But last night was a little bit of a rough night, getting down to 14 degrees. I woke up at least 3 times because it was so cold in here, and had to restock the fire. So if I would have left the diesel heater on high, it probably would have maintained a higher temperature even when the fire went out. But I was also curious on what temperature the diesel heater would keep it in here when it was set to low. And like I said, I've woken up to where it was like just under 40 degrees. I think it was like 37 degrees the one time I woke up. Overall, pretty good. A lot more work required, getting up every hour to hour and a half to restock the fire. Even when I had the chimney damped down a little bit and had the airflow basically cut down just so it would sit there and smolder, and still creates pretty good heat, and that's what makes it last the longest. But still, if I didn't wake up every hour and a half and put wood in there, then there's a chance I would have had to relight it, which I did have to do once. But let's go out and see how much diesel's left in the diesel heater, and then I'm gonna go make some coffee. So the fuel level's about right here. So it used about 3 liters of fuel from midnight to 7 a.m. Like I said, most of that was on low until the last few hours in the morning. I actually, so the last time when I cranked it up to high, I left it on high, and I actually cleared out a spot on the floor, laid on the floor, and just let that heat blow on me, and I fell asleep. So the last few hours it was on high, but for the most part, most of the night it was on low. Another win for the diesel heater is that you don't have to worry about sparks from the wood stove flying out and putting holes in your tent. This brand new tent has a small little pinhole in it now. Ideally, you want your roof pipe to be a little bit higher than the top of your tent. Right now, it's almost about level, but a spark probably flew out of there, landed right here, and put that little hole. So I'd say that's a win for the diesel heater. And then one last thing to consider is cleanup. So one negative about a wood stove is there's a little bit more work involved as far as cleaning it up at the end, cleaning all the ashes out. Everything's cooled down. So the diesel heater is definitely easier to put away when you're done heating. A little bit less work. You can see, like I said earlier, the wood stove is a little bit messier, but at the end, when you're getting ready to pack up and go home, you have to worry about cleaning the stove out, but you have to wait for that to cool down, for the pipe to cool down, so you can even unhook it and get it all out and outside of the tent. With the diesel heater, you just shut it off and within a few minutes, the exhaust pipes cooled down and you're ready to pack it up and head out. So that's another win for the diesel heater. If you're trying to pack up in a hurry in the morning and get going, you don't have to wait for your wood to burn out and then your stove to cool down to take it apart. So I think they both have their benefits. Let me know which one you guys would prefer, or if you think it's a good idea to use both. I love being able to cook on the wood stove. I love the noise of the wood popping and the heat that it generates, but I don't like how you have to wake up every hour and a half to load it. The diesel heater is a little bit noisier, but I love the efficiency of it and how quick and easy it is to set up and take down, and the instantaneous heat that you get from it within a few minutes of firing it up. Only downfall is you gotta have power. You have to make sure you don't run out of diesel, and that clicking noise is kind of annoying and will probably annoy your campers if you have a bunch of campers right next to you. So I'm not sure if I'm even going to use that at father-son camp because I don't want to annoy my neighbors, but I might look into getting a quieter pump for that. If I do, then I wouldn't have any problem using it. I think they might make some. I thought I seen if I do, maybe I'll make a video on that, so stick around if you want to see that. Let me know your opinion. Let me know what you would rather use. And if you enjoyed this, please leave a comment down below. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see all of you around on the next one. Thanks for watching.